Howdy, my name is Tara, and I hope you're having a terrific day, and if you are not, this video is about to make your day just a little bit better. I have finally finished the long-anticipated Tales of Crestoria tier list summer update. Today, we will be analyzing all of the 6 summer banner SSR units and the first exclusive SSR unit to drop after the release of Tales of Crestoria. My goal with this tier list is to provide you with the best information needed when you're making your future SSR investments and to provide a little bit of guidance for new players to Tales of Crestoria. Please consider subscribing and liking if you end up enjoying this video, and you can always check me out live on my Twitch, found in the description below. Alright, now on to the Tales of Crestoria tier list. And before we get into this, I will be explaining the rankings and making multiple changes to the rankings of our currently placed SSR characters in a bit. This tier list is an overall SSR tier list focusing more on how characters will do in all content rather than solely their element specific content. The characters at the God tier ranking can be expected to excel in almost all in-game content and progress your account forward the fastest. Conversely, characters toward the mediocre ranking, while not being completely useless, will often not be viable in most content, and will have a lower impact when progressing through content. I would like to note that I've already analyzed all of the currently ranked SSR characters in my SSR unit analysis series, and while there will be differences between this tier list and the current placements of these characters, you can get my most in-depth thoughts on these current rankings through that series. So before we analyze and rank all of the summer characters, let's take a moment to first give a brief explanation to the current rankings of our release SSR characters, while also making some adjustments starting from mediocre rank. This part of the video will be largely unscripted, so please excuse me if I fub on any explanations. I will do my best. Alright, so in our mediocre rank, we have Aegis and Lloyd, who I find to be largely uneventful characters in Tales of Crestoria. They both are very tanky, wet noodle damage dealing characters, and while being tanky is not a bad thing, it is kind of bad when you possess 0 utility and not enough hit generation to match other characters who are also tanky. So now let's talk about our viable and niche ranking. We're going to be actually moving a character from the meta ranking known as Mila into the viable and niche ranking. The reason I am moving Mila into the viable and niche ranking is because her main job in Tales of Crestoria is to apply debilitated. Debilitated is largely good in raid type content because of the ability to aid other raid members through the debilitated effect. If you don't know, debilitated increases the damage that a opponent receives by 20%. The problem in debilitated though is that other characters have the ability to apply defense downs at a 100% chance, and Mila has the ability to apply debilitated at a 40% chance, making her a very inconsistent user of debilitated. And when we talk about some of these summer units, you're going to see why I moved Mila down into the viable and niche ranking. Other than that, in our viable and niche ranking, we have Mozilla, Asbel, and Reed. Mozilla, she's a hybrid damage dealer healer. She doesn't really have much hit generation. Honestly, she's alright. She is usable in this game, but she doesn't exactly excel in any area. She's just kind of a good hybrid character. So I think she's viable, but I don't think she's exactly meta anymore. There was people that thought she was meta at the beginning of the game, but I think that's largely kind of digressed at this point. Asbel and Reed, on the other hand, are 2 more damage-orientated units in their element, but the problem with both of them is that they're in elements that have, for Asbel, has Kanata, which is just a way better damage dealer, and for Reed has Ston and Luke, which are just insane. So if you had the choice between putting Asbel in your team or Kanata, or putting Reed in your team or Ston, you would never put those characters in your team just because they don't live up to that same potential. Now, our meta category is about to get pretty large because we're going to be moving 2 currently ranked demigods down into meta, that being Jude and Kohaku. If you know anything about Jude, he's basically the bruiser version of Leon. He has a very fast mystic art. He does pretty great damage. Unfortunately, I actually moved him down to meta because I realized he can only apply 20 hits in a single turn, and I'm kind of seeing more of a focus of these characters that even if they can provide a very fast mystic art, they need to be able to provide a little bit more hit generation. Kohaku's kind of in the same vein as Jude. She's a hybrid status element curing healer, damage dealer. She's capable of, generating 20 hits in a single turn. But again, she is kind of potential lacking at the moment because you need to get her max awakened to see most of her utility by her passive skill providing that plus 10 to the overlimit gauge to martial artist characters. Now let's talk about the rest of our meta characters. We got Kanata first. Kanata, pretty good in the dark raids, pretty good in Phantom Tower, and especially good in Arena because he has the ability to hit all, and his Mystic Art is on a low overlimit cost of 180 if I remember correctly. It being at 180 means in dark raid content he is capable of getting his Mystic Art off extremely fast, and in other content him being able to hit all means he's a really good wildfire abuser. Velvet is a character that I think as the game progresses will become better and better and better, and she could end up being a demigod very, very soon. The main thing holding her back at the moment is her very high overlimit cost of 270, preventing her from getting a consistent third turn mystic art in raid based content. But with the effects of units like Kohaku and a summer unit that we're going to be talking about later, Sophie, passive skills aiding in her getting her mystic art that much sooner, she could end up reaching viability very, very soon outside of the meta and more toward demigod. Yuri, super solid, has fantastic hit generation, able to generate 52 hit in a single turn. So unlike Aegis and Lloyd, Yuri is a tank you would actually want on your team. Kronos is basically a arena only unit, and you could also use him in the Phantom Tower if you really wanted to. He has his Mystic Art and his first art that are both capable of attacking multiple enemies. So he's just really, really good at cleave teams in the arena, or being another wildfire abuser like Kanata is. Vicious now is a character that I've always wanted in Tales of Crestoria. He's capable of generating 36 hit generation in a single turn, while also providing your entire team with his passive skill, which gives them plus 15% max health. So in a way, he's a very tanky unit, has hit generation, and he makes your other team members even more tanky. He's kind of what you want in a tank. Luger is very interesting. He hits multiple notes that other characters just can't seem to hit. He has the ability to decrease both the enemy's defense and their attack, which are fundamental in later content such as the limited raids. And he also does pretty dang good damage at the same time, while also having pretty good hit generation, being able to do about 20 plus hit generation in a single turn. You're just not going to be sad using this husbando either. Rita is another water element damage dealer who actually just landed meta because while she does possess everything to make her kit works in the game, she has just a very high overlimit cost, and there's just no way that she can compete with Kanano. But she is better than Asbel, which lands her pretty squarely in meta. We're getting pretty high up in our tier list now, so let's talk about our demigod characters, which there are going to be 2 god tier characters being moved into demigod today. Those characters are going to be Leon and Saray. Everyone cries. So let's talk about Leon. He is a quintessential damage dealer, especially on all of my teams because I absolutely adore him. But his hit generation is only capable of hitting about 33 hits in a single turn. And while he is an excellent damage dealer, he can be used pretty much everywhere still. but there are other options that are opening up that kind of has lowered his power level a little bit. He's still the best offensive hit generator, but there are just other options in the game now. So Ray, on the other hand, has been moved down to demigod because I have listened to your feedback. Being able to apply wildfire is absolutely incredible, but I don't think that status effect alone means that a character should be in god tier. Wildfire, if you don't know, is a status element that the enemy afflicted with it, if you attack other enemies, they will take 1.3 times the damage of the other enemies that you hit. And so Ray is one of the best characters at applying this effect, so it's really, really good in the arena and Phantom Tower, but in raids, he's kind of useless. So I listened, I moved him down to demigod. I think characters that are in god tier should be able to excel in every single bit of in-game content, being the raid, the Phantom Tower, and arena. And sorry, but Saray just doesn't. Now, Stan is our demigod fire nuker. He has a overlimit cost of 180, if I remember correctly, and he deals the most damage out of any other fire characters in a single turn, which makes him just clearly stand out as a character that if you invest into him, he will be on every single one of your fire advantage teams. Luke is another fire demigod character, but unlike Stan, is there for a completely different reason. Luke is capable of massive hit generation, and he can also hit multiple enemies at the same time. He is perfect for your arena teams, and he's pretty dang good in Phantom Tower as well. And in raids, he's kind of usable across every single raid type. And while he's not going to be the best characters for every single raid type, having an overlimit cost of 160 means that on enemy break turns on turn 3, he is capable of doing his Mystic Art on those turn 3s and generating 33 hits in a single turn. So he's a demigod character because he can essentially be used in every single content in the game, except for maybe content that he's elementally disadvantaged in. I don't even know if I need to talk about Kanata. She's best girl. She does way too much damage for a water unit. She nukes. If you have her, use her. Discussion over. Crest is the lord and savior of the earth element. He is capable of generating some hit and dealing some pretty good damage at the same time, and he's also pretty bruiser-ish, being able to, take a hit, deal damage. He's really good. I like Crest a lot. Well, there's only one character left to discuss that is currently ranked on the SSR tier list, and that is going to be Estelle. Estelle is the best healer in the game, by far. She has a art that can heal a single unit by a shit ton, and she also has a mystic art that can heal every unit by a shit ton. She's just insane, and in every single bit of content, in raid content, in arena content, and Phantom Tower content, she's going to be the character that will excel a new player through that content the best out of any other character on the tier list. And she can also enable some pretty wonky stuff late game, such as doing very hard raids solo, and even being an unkillable character in some scenarios. Now, it is finally time to rank our summer SSR characters known as Summer Vague, Kanata, Yuri, Rudy, Zelos, Sophie, and our singular exclusive SSR character Dhaos. We will start off with Summer Vague. Summer Vague is an earth element and longsword type unit. He has below average health and attack with very high defense. His stat distribution makes him a very tanky character, and his passive skill furthers his defensiveness by providing a plus 11% defense to all earth characters and a 5% chance to reset the art cooldown of longsword type allies' arts after use. The second part of his passive skill aims to unsuccessfully combat his high art turn counts. His first art provides 15 hit generation on a 5 turn count, and his second art provides 10 hit generation on a 4 turn count. These are some of the best hit generating arts, yet sadly possess those high turn counts. His mystic art does take his hit generation up a notch by targeting all enemies, generating 13 hit per enemy. Yet, just like with his high turn counts on his arts, his mystic art possesses an overlimit cost of 270, which is only mirrored in cost by Velvet. I would like to state he is capable of generating the second highest hit generation in a single turn of 67 in perfect conditions. So now it is time to rank Summer Vague on our SSR tier list. Summer Vague will be receiving the ranking of Viable, or otherwise known as Niche. Summer Vague at first glance appears extremely powerful until you realize exactly how much of a hindrance his high turn counts, overlimit gauge cost, and reliance on there being multiple enemies possesses. In raid type content, his hit generation is nowhere to be found, as there are not multiple enemies to be hit. In arena offense teams, you will generally want a faster cleaver than Summer Vague, and while he does have uses on a defense team, there is currently no benefits in building an arena defense team. This leads him to mainly being good in the Phantom Tower for burst turns. However, another downside is there are just a plethora of other characters that would enable you to finish Phantom Tower who can also do well outside of it. At the very least, he is husbando material. Now on to our best girl Kanata, who happened to get a Summer SSR variant. Summer Kanata is a wind element and longsword type unit. She has below average health with slightly above average attack and defense. Her passive skill mirrors her stat distribution, providing plus 7% attack to all allies and plus 10% defense to wind allies. Her first art is on a 3 turn count with an attack ratio of 170%, and her second art is on a 3 turn count, being able to heal an ally by 50%. She is a hybrid character capable of dealing damage while also healing. Her mystic art, on the other hand, introduces a bit of hit generation, being able to target all enemies, generating 8 hit per enemy. Her mystic art also deals an incredible amount of damage for an ability that can hit all by having an attack ratio of 160%. Luckily, this mystic art is on an overlimit cost of 190, making it not far-fetched to reach it every third turn. When it comes to ranking Summer Kanata, I have to give her the ranking of meta. I think she has some fairly glaring flaws, yet also is extremely useful in almost all in-game content. In raids, she provides a little bit of damage while also providing the heals you may need to survive. In arena, she quickly achieves her high damage and hit generating mystic art while also keeping your team alive. In Phantom Tower, pairing her with another hybrid healer or Estelle just makes your team almost unkillable. Her ranking of meta largely comes from her lack of focus. She doesn't excel at anything, but she is definitely a good option for a lot of things. Up next, we have Summer Yuri, which I am very happy to have gotten. Summer Yuri is a dark element and sword type unit. He has above average health with pretty average attack and defense. His passive skill increases all allies' max health by plus 10% and also provides sword allies with a 10% defense increase. His first art is capable of applying defense down by 10% for 2 turns on a 2 turn count, and his second art is more damage orientated at an attack ratio of 200% on a 4 turn count. His mystic art is where his kit truly gets interesting though, by having the ability to apply attack down by 20% to all enemies on an overlimit cost of 210. Now, ranking Summer Yuri is kind of straightforward, as he and Luger share identical rules. Summer Yuri will take the mantle of meta. Just like with Luger, Summer Yuri will fit perfectly in raid compositions when a debuffer is required. Limited raids are extremely difficult comparative to other raid content, and a debuffer like Summer Yuri will ensure everyone in the raid survives. So those without a mono team ready or seeking to take more of a supportive role will almost always look towards Summer Yuri for salvation. Summer Rudy, I believe, was the absolute star of the second summer banner. She is a water element and sword type unit. She has below average health alongside slightly above average attack and defense stat line. Her passive skill gives plus 6% attack to all allies and restores 12% of all allies' health on a successful enemy break. Where her kit truly gets interesting though is in her first art. Her first art applies a 20% defense down to all enemies for 4 whole turns on a 5-turn count. Even with that high turn count, this is the highest defense down any character can apply. Her second art also hits very hard with an attack ratio of 180% to follow up her first art with. Lastly, her mystic art possesses one of the highest attack ratios in the game at 420% on an overlimit cost of 240. This is a higher overlimit cost, but considering the rest of her kit is definitely justified. Summer Rudy is a character that immediately after this video I may just change my mind on. For now, I'm going to give her the ranking of meta. She could very well be a demigod, but I just don't think people have her built up enough yet to witness her true potential. At max awakening, being able to restore all allies' health by 12% on breaks could make her a central passive healer in a composition, and her also being capable of enabling and dealing massive damage at the same time is almost just enough to tip her over. The main hesitation I have is in Kanata being such a powerful water SSR character who just keeps putting everyone else to shame. So I'll need a bit more proof before bumping Summer Rudy higher. Now let us have a chat about Summer Zelos. He is a wind element and sword type unit. He has a slightly above average health and defense stat alongside slightly below average attack stat. His passive skill provides a plus 8% defense increase to all allies and plus 10% attack increase to all allies when a 20 hit is achieved. His first and second art possess low turn counts of 2 and 3 with great attack ratios of 170% and 190%. His mystic art on the other hand is on an overlimit cost of 180, generating 15 hits with an overlimit cost of 280%. His kit reminds me clearly of Leon, making him kind of a wind element version of him. However, his stat distribution is on the more bruiser side of things. When ranking Zelos, I have to keep the other characters that fulfill the same role as him in mind, that being Leon and Jude. This brings me to the conclusion that Zelos will join many of the other summer SSR units at meta. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Zelos inside of Wind Advantage content can go toe to toe with Leon. However, anything outside of that, he will quickly fall flat. Being able to only generate 19 hits at most in a single turn is honestly kind of just a grief. He is completely overshadowed by Leon's 33 hits and higher damage output. In addition, outside of Win Advantage content, Zelos is unable to consistently hit third turn Mystic Arts, making him restricted to sticking within his element. The last summer SSR character on our list is that of Summer Sophie. She is a water element and martial artist type unit. She has above average health, low attack, and great defense. This makes her pretty tanky, but lacking any sort of attack though. Her passive skill enables wacky combos, providing plus 15 to the overlimit gauge of all allies when an enemy breaks, and plus 17% max health to martial arts type units. A passive skill that provides plus 15 to the overlimit gauge of allies on a successful break without an element or a type requirement means there is potential that adding Sophie to a composition can push certain units to an earlier Mystic Art turn. Going into her arts, her first art, while not dealing much damage, has a high hit count of 7 and will increase the crit rate of herself by 20% for 2 turns on a 2-turn count. I personally do not think a crit rate buff is very impactful, as when a raid boss is broken, crits are already guaranteed anyways. Her second art does have great hit generation though of 13 and an attack ratio of 200% on a turn count of 5. Her second art will not do much damage when you consider her low attack stat, but if followed up with her first art, is capable of putting out something. Lastly, her mystic art just gives her more damage, having an attack ratio of 400%, 6 hit generation, and an overlimit cost of 220. Like Zelos, she can put out 19 hit generation in a single turn, and while it may not be the greatest amount of hit generation, it is something. Summer Sophie is the hardest unit for me to rank, as she can go all the way down in niche or as high up as demigod. But for now, I'm going to be putting her in the meta tier. Her main attribute is found purely within her passive skill, which as the game progresses, could prove to be massively impactful. Yet, this would mean having her maxed awakened, which for most players is just not an option, especially not this early in the game. As usual, we've saved the best for last, being Dhaos, the only exclusive banner unit so far in Tales of Crestoria. Dhaos is a light element and arts type unit. He has above average health and attack with below average defense. His passive skill, if you're fortunate enough to pull that many of him, provides plus 30% attack boost to all arts type allies on your team. This is the highest passive skill attack boost in the game. His first art does high damage at an attack ratio of 200% on a turn count of 3, and his second art on a turn count of 4 targets all enemies, generating 12 hits per enemy with a 20% chance to cast D-Spell on them for 2 turns. This second art is absurd to me, as even though it deals low damage, it still generates a massive amount of hit generation. They basically took Summervake's Mystic Art and just slapped it on to Dhaos' second art. And then Dhaos' Mystic Art just has to take his kit up a notch higher by providing 42 hit generation with an attack ratio of 210% on an overlimit cost of 240. Think about this. In one turn, he is capable of generating 54 hits in single target content and up to 102 hits when multiple enemies are present. So when it comes to Dhaos, he absolutely obliterates the SSR tier list, clearly taking his spot at the very top in God tier. He is the best hit generator in all content, and once built is a mainstay in every single in-game content type, regardless of whether or not he has an elemental advantage in it. In raids, he is capable of achieving a 3rd turn Mystic Art with the Kel Memoria Stone, making him perfect for generating that hit so your damage dealer can nuke that much harder. In Arena, he enables Cleave's teams to easily wipe out enemy players through his second art's hit generation. Dhaos is simply nutty. I am so happy I was finally able to get this Tales of Crestoria tier list summer update out, and I hope it did not disappoint. In the future, you can expect a lot of the same content that I've been releasing, being should you pool content, 100 summon sessions, and more SSR unit analysis with tier list updates in the future. So let me know down in the comments your thoughts on my Tales of Crestoria tier list unit rankings, and do not forget, be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. You can also head over to my Discord or check me out sometime on Twitch, found in the description. Buh Bye Now.